have to achieve the SDGs in 10 years. I'm going to talk about that, but with a quick introduction to the Better Than Cash Alliance. We're hosted by the United Nations, and we are an alliance of governments and companies and international organizations that are each committed, each has to commit before they join the alliance to moving away from cash to some form of digital option. We've got to solve this problem. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Did you know that every single government in the world has committed to these? Every single government to agree to these. The government of Norway, the government of Australia, the government of Ethiopia, the government of Rwanda. And the timeline is 10 years from now.
Yes, folks, digital IDs, digital currencies, this whole digital smart grid, and it's being rolled out and agreed upon by every government in the world. Think about that, folks. They are all working in lockstep to implement this plan, and it's been carried out by every government in the world.
In his usual lying hysteria, John Kerry, who serves as the first U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, told a series of lies and announced that our government is planning to shut down U.S. agriculture. They call it innovation because they are confident that our pain and desperation will someday give birth to an innovative new solution. Or at least that's their cover story.
Emissions from the food system alone are projected to cause another 0.5 degree of warming by mid-century on the current course that we are today. And instead of being on a course to be able to hold the Earth's temperature increase to 1.5 degrees, we're actually on a course to hit around 3 degrees right now. And you just can't continue to both warm the planet while also expecting to feed it. Doesn't work. And as is so often the case with respect to the climate crisis, we have to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. This is the biggest organizational effort that I think we have faced, certainly since World War II, but perhaps ever. So we have to reduce emissions from the food system to keep the 1.5 degrees alive. Why do we have to keep 1.5 degrees alive? Because scientists, as a basis of physics and mathematics, not ideology and politics or party labels or anything else, as a matter of physics and mathematics and some biology and chemistry have told us these are the consequences.
Everything out of his mouth is a lie. The exact opposite of what he says is true. The scientists he is referring to are almost all on the United Nations payroll. The real scientific community of the world realize that the world's climate has changed in extreme, erratic ways over the years without human pollution. In one of the most recent studies, Our House University researchers found that the Arctic had ice-free summers just 10,000 years ago. And ice core samples show that the Earth is in a cooling period, not a warming one. But these decrepit old gatekeepers want us all dead because the system isn't giving up control.
And I think to those in civil society, we got to push more. We got to be more militant, maybe. President Biden has demanded an all-of-government initiative. We are all working together. Every department of our government is engrossed in this. And if we make the right choices, there's no question in my mind we can win this battle.
While our food supply is under terrorist attack by our own government, the power grid is being targeted for a false flag. And a story is already being spun to blame it on American patriots. Meanwhile, the communist Chinese are meeting their bogus climate change quotas in a different way. They are spray painting rocks and sand green. And they are planting vast fields of fake flowers made of white rocks stuck on the ends of steel rebar. According to local translators, This is being done to make areas look more green in aerial photography.
Resist a tyranny, you must be independent of that tyranny for your subsistence. If the government provides your food, your clothing, your shelter, your education, your job, your medical care, your retirement, then the government controls you most effectively indeed. If that government should ever become tyrannical, and they have a way of doing that in history, then you've had it, my friends. We believe that one of the greatest lessons of history that so desperately needs to be relearned by the American people, our forefathers knew it well, is this. Anytime a government is powerful enough to give the people everything they want, it is also powerful enough to take from the people everything they've got. You cannot have one without the other. Even if collectivism were not morally wrong, even if it did produce a higher standard of living, we would still oppose it because freedom is more important than prosperity.
It seems harder and harder to ignore that the echoes of replacement theory and other racially motivated views are increasingly coming out into the open.
In a few years, we're going to be a majority brown country. White people will not be the majority in the country anymore.
This will be the first generation ever in American history in which whites will be a minority of the generation at some point.
As of 2007, every year, babies being born in this country, whites now are the minority.
In 2044, everyone is going to be a minority.
As the demographics change, as white people become the minority in the country, which is coming.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny, right? The country is changing.
I've been saying it here. Other people have been saying it here for years now, even before Donald Trump. The demographics is destiny.
The white population is declining for the first time in history in America, while the number of multiracial Americans have more than doubled.
So we live in a country where the demographics are changing. It's becoming less white.
Correct.
Okay.
You'll be announcing that we're calling the 38 electoral votes of Texas for the Democratic nominee for president. It's changing. It's going to become a purple state and then a blue state because of the demographics, because of the population growth.
The growth in Texas has been almost entirely driven by non-white population growth, mostly by Hispanic and Latino population growth.
The idea that whites will not be the majority, I mean, it's an exciting transformation of the country. It's an exciting evolution and progress of our country in many different ways.
The white population is declining. It was always on the upswing. So that speaks to the beautiful diversity of America.
Take him to Detroit. No, not Detroit.
Reading and writing are the fundamentals of education, but the president of the Detroit School Board says a learning disability has been a lifelong challenge for him. Fox News' Ron Savage reports from Detroit.
You survived, you made it. Now you're telling me people with disability cannot be leaders?
The president of the Detroit School Board is taking his licks for being unable to write a sentence that makes sense. His emails were published in the Detroit News and Free Press. Do DPS control the foundation or outside group? If an outside group control the foundation, then what is DPS board role with selection of is director? Are we mixing DPS and non-DPS roles? And who is the watchdog? As a child, Otis Mathis was placed in special ed.
So, of course, they put me in special ed, and my parents fought to get me out, but it set me back a half a year.
Mathis, a U.S. Navy veteran, is a math whiz. In high school, he took 4 years of algebra, 2 geometry, trigonometry, and calculus. He aced the college math exams, but he never had success writing sentences. A Wayne State professor told him he had a disability he would need to deal with.
She told me that, the way you talk, you don't even write the way you talk. So there's a disconnect in your brain, that through your vocal is, I can understand you, you make sense. But when that signal goes to your fingers to write, something happens.
Elected to the school board in January 2008, all the other school board members voted him in as president in January of this year. It's a 2-year term. School's emergency financial manager Robert Bobb told Fox 2 he's only concerned with Mathis' ability to get the job done, and he believes he's doing that. Mathis believes he's a role model for kids who are dealing with a learning disability.
So I think hopefully I am. When I was telling the kids for the 2 years in a special ed class of the earth and natural science, figure out a way to go around that wall, over that wall, under. Some people can go right through the wall. So I hope I am.
In Detroit, Ron Savage, Fox 2 News.
There's 3 initiatives that are put down through the World Economic Forum. One is called CEI, one is called ESG, and one is called DEI. These initiatives are put down as social initiatives from the World Economic Forum, the most powerful people on the planet, through the banks to the big corporations. These corporations, unlike my business, actually depend on that financing 100%. So if they don't do the things that these 3 initiatives, the CEI, the ESG, and the DEI say, they actually lose their funding, so they can't operate their business. So you say, well, aren't these people smart enough to understand why they're destroying their business? They can't not do it. Because if they don't do it, they won't get their funding. So they can't operate. So they have no choice but to do it. And then they drive their business into the dirt. And here's why that's happening. Because the people who run these companies, the officers of the companies, are not the founders of the companies. These are people that are many generations removed and many degrees of caring about the actual brand removed. All right? So these people are college graduates who think they know a whole bunch of stuff because they have an advanced degree, and they are making decisions that are, basically about the money and thinking that eventually people will adopt this and it will stop. But it's not going to stop, and it's not supposed to stop. This is what people are failing to realize. What's happening is we are dealing with a communist insurgency that is undermining the values and the identity of the American public. What they are doing is they are intentionally creating a scenario where the American people rejecting this initiative is actually hurting iconic American brands that remove much of the American identity. So when you name these companies off, all of these companies represent America when you think of them traditionally. So now they're removing part of the identity, which is part of the communist process called demoralization. If there's less identity in America, there's less to fight for, which makes it easier to conquer. All right? Then on top of it, one of the goals of communism is to create 2 classes of people, very poor and very rich. And so what they're doing here is they are getting the American public to cancel their own companies that actually hurts their own neighbors who are good, hardworking American people. Because the people at Bud Light at the top are not the ones feeling the pain here. It's the delivery drivers. It's the hardworking red, white, and blue Americans that believe the same motherfucking shit that you all believe, who are getting fired or laid off or losing because of this. So they have run an operation to push this initiative down through the companies intentionally, where the companies cannot resist it because they're required to do so for their funding, knowing that the American people are going to reject it and destroy these companies, creating the lower class system that they're trying to create in the first place.
One thing is self-belief. If you don't believe you can do it, you'll never try, and you will die never knowing how far you could have gone.
It's time to strap our boots on. This is a perfect day to die. Wipe the blood out of our eyes. In this life there's no surrender, and there's nothing left for us to do. Find the strength to see this through. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers, we are soldiers.
Belief in yourself, belief after failure, belief when all others doubt, relentless belief that you will get to your target no matter what.
State your name. Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.